Good morning, church. Good morning, Rainbow Push. It is so good to be here this morning. It is good to be in the house of the Lord. Oh, yes. I am here this morning, though, because this country is in a time of crisis. We are in a fight for the very soul of our nation. And when we're in this kind of fight, when we're in this kind of battle, we need allies who know how to fight and who know how to win. We need strong, persistent fighters. We need fighters who know that giving up is not an option. We need principled leaders who have the courage to fight for their convictions. We need giants who know that social change is possible only when we join together across lines of difference. We need a champion like our Reverend Jesse Jackson. Thank you. Thank you. For generations, under the leadership of our Reverend Jesse Jackson, the National Push Coalition has been on the front lines in the fight for justice. I'm here today to let you know how proud I am to stand shoulder to shoulder with Reverend Jackson and with you in this fight. And now, more than ever, the mission and mandate of Rainbow Push Coalition is vitally important. Because here's the truth. The fight for social, racial, and economic justice is far from over. Every day we wake up to a new attack. Attacks on our values, attacks on our democracy, attacks on the most vulnerable among us. These fights are hard, and at times it can seem like our labor is in vain. But I'm here today to remind each and every one of you, our fight is a righteous fight. A righteous fight. And in a righteous fight, we fight until we win. So I grew up out in Oklahoma, grew up in the Methodist church. Every Sunday in the Methodist church, my mother every Wednesday at Methodist Women's Circle. We know some of you on that, right? And when I had babies, I took my babies to church. Now, by this point, I was down in Texas, a little church down there, and I tried to help out like most people do. I'd bring a covered dish for our meetings. Sometimes we'd have them on Friday nights. You could always count on me for costumes for the Christmas pageant or for the Easter pageant or whatever the kids were putting together. But one day the pastor came up to me and he said, Elizabeth, he said, I'd like you to teach Sunday school. And I said, Reverend, I got little kids and I've got my own teaching job. I'm teaching in the law school, blah, 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 you know how that goes. And he said, I really like you to teach Sunday school. He said, the fifth graders. He said, we've had a teacher quit, and he said, we really need you to teach fifth grade Sunday school. And I'm giving it the back pedal the whole time. And he said, finally he reaches out and he grabs my arm. He said, no, I really need you to teach Sunday school. And I said, well, maybe try someone. He said, it's the third teacher who's quit. And I said, is there a problem in the fifth grade? No. He said, look, it's not that hard, just so long as nobody gets hurt. It'll be a success. So I'm thinking, whoa. So I keep trying this, and the pastor, a little like Reverend Jackson, he puts the arm on you, you come through. So there I am. I show up to teach my fifth grade Sunday school class. And I don't know how to describe this. These kids are like wild. Man, they are everywhere. They are having a big time, but not there to do much of a Sunday school lesson. So in the space of the first 2 or 3 weeks, They cut each other's hair. That was a highlight. They glue a bunch of stuff together, including a bunch of our equipment and stuff in the room. We're on the first floor, fortunately, because at one point all the little boys climbed out the window. So it's a pretty chaotic mess. And I finally decided, this is awful. I'm not doing a good job here. There's one thing I do know how to do, and it's teach. Come on. I was a special needs teacher. I'm now teaching in law school. Surely I can do this. So I got my kids together. Finally, about the fourth Sunday we did this, and I said, okay, look, everybody sit down. We're going to read a story from the Bible, and then I'm going to ask you some questions about this. So I gave them a little piece to read about Noah. And so they all read about Noah, and they're still giggling and twisted in the seats, but they all read about Noah. And I said, how do you think Noah felt when he heard God? And of course, they give lots of giggly answers. They give answers like, am I going crazy? And, is it a spaceman talking to me? But after a while, they start to actually kind of get engaged. What would that mean? That God spoke directly to you and told you about something that was going to happen in this world? So they got a little bit engaged, and they started answering the questions, and we made it through to juice time. We passed out the juice and cookies and actually had a pretty good class. So did it again the next week. Brought in a different story and started asking them questions. And they got more and more engaged. We gave up doing the art. We gave up cutting each other's hair and got focused on these Bible questions. And so one day we were reading a passage about charity. And the children were struggling with the question about charity and the difference of charity, what you give, but you don't have to give. But you need to think about, what do you owe? And that's kind of where the conversation turned. So I was asking the question, what do we owe each other? Not just give up of charity if you decide to. What do you owe each other? And so they go back and forth, and they figure out some parts of it that are pretty good, that you don't push your brother down. Okay, I get that. You don't hit kids. Okay, I get that. Another kid said, you don't put boogers in your brother's food. Note to self, don't eat at their house. But I had one kid who was always pretty quiet. He was bigger than the other kids, but always pretty quiet, a kid named Jesse. And Jesse didn't volunteer too much. I tried to draw him in. And finally, Jesse said, I said, you have an idea what we owe each other? And Jesse said, yeah. He said, everybody gets a turn. And I thought, yeah. And he said, everybody gets a turn. And I thought of that as very much like the passage from Matthew. So if you'll forgive me, I know you know the passage, but I want to remind everyone and see if we can link these up. So I'm at Matthew 25. You ready? We're going to do a little Matthew here. And I'm old school, so this is going to be King James Version. Okay? And let me set the story up. If there's anyone in here who doesn't know the story, it's that the sheep are being divided from the goats. And just so y'all understand, sheep are going to heaven. The goats most definitely are not. And the shepherd has divided them, and he's put the sheep on one side and he's put the goats on the other. And here's the passage. And then he shall set the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on the left. Then shall the king say unto them on his right hand, come, ye blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungered, and ye gave me meat. I was thirsty, and ye gave me drink. I was a stranger, and ye took me in. Naked, and ye clothed me. I was sick, and ye visited me. I was in prison, and ye came unto me. And then shall the righteous answer him, saying, Lord, when saw we thee hungered and fed thee, or thirsty and gave thee drink? The sheep are saying, I don't remember seeing the Lord and doing these things for the Lord. When saw we thee a stranger and took thee in, or naked and clothed thee? Or when saw we thee sick or in prison and came unto thee? And the king shall answer and say unto them, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye have done it unto one of these, the least of my brethren, ye have done it unto me. And that, for me, is what all of this is about. For me, there are 3 lessons in that passage. The first is there is God in every one of us. There is God in every one of us. Not God just in those who look like the Lord, God in every one of us. There is God in the children. There is God in the hungry. There is God in those who are in prison. The second thing it says to me is that we are not called simply to observe. We're not called just to have a good heart. We are called to act, to feed the hungry, to bring water to the thirsty, to visit the imprisoned. And the third is that we are called to act without promise of reward. We are called to act because it is right. As I travel this country and I hear from the American people, they share their struggles, they share their fears, they share their concerns. But the people know what is right, and they are ready to act. They know that they have been called for such a time as this, and they are willing to step up. I am here today to say that none of us is alone in this fight. When I am president, we will answer this call together. This is not a call for another round of empty promises. This is not a call for another round of vague ideas. This is a call for real plans to make real changes in our lives and in our communities. And yes, I have a plan for that. Too many for today, but let me mention just a few to remind everyone. Some of you may know that I have proposed a 2-cent wealth tax on the richest fortunes in this country. 2 cents. Everything over $50 million, 2 cents. And here's what we can do with 2 cents. We can provide universal child care for every one of our babies aged 0 to 6. Every one of them. We can provide universal pre-K for every 3-year-old and 4-year-old in this country. We can raise the wages of every child care worker and preschool teacher in America. We can make public technical school, community college, and 4-year state college free to every one of our kids. We can level the playing field and put $50 billion into our historically black colleges and universities. And we can cancel student loan debt for 95% of the kids who've got it. Yes. We can begin to close the black-white wealth gap with these plans. But there's so much more. I have a plan to fund Black entrepreneurs. Let's close the entrepreneurship gap. I have a plan to counter the effects of redlining. I have a plan to end the mass incarceration of millions of our brothers and sisters by banning private prisons. No one should make a profit from locking people up. I have a plan to make sure that every American citizen gets to vote and gets that vote counted. Yes, this is a moment of tremendous challenge, but I believe this is the moment we have been called to. And I make you this promise. When I am president, we will answer this call together. We will answer this call and we will stand with one another. We will answer the call to make health care, affordable housing, and high-quality education for every child a basic human right. We will answer the call to build an America where the difference between a good education and a prison sentence isn't just a few blocks. We will answer the call to make certain that every working person, regardless of race, creed, or economic background, every working person is paid a living wage so they can build a secure future for themselves and their families. We will answer the call to build an America that commits to educating our children before it criminalizes them. We will answer the call to build an America where a run-in with law enforcement or a turn down the wrong street corner doesn't cost you your life because of the color of your skin. We will answer the call to build an America where federal solutions to local problems are made by communities, for communities, in communities, where no one is forced to leave their community to find equal opportunity. We will answer the call to end mass incarceration in this country. And when I am president, we will create a country in which, like Matthew 25, every human being has value, and we turn our backs on no one. And we will start right here in Chicago. I know the challenges we face are enormous, and the forces that stand against us will stop at nothing to divide us, to turn us against each other. In times of struggle, in times of uncertainty, I often turn to Scripture for inspiration, to keep the faith and to stay in the fight. So for me, it's 2 Timothy. For God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. I am in this fight because I am not afraid. I know our fight is a righteous fight. And if we stand together, if we fight together, if we persist together, if we dream big and fight hard, then we will win and we will make this the America of our best friends.